My name is Lori Paris, and welcome to She Life. My mother, Catherine Smith Thomsen, whose mother is Catherine Victoria Smith, whose mother is Nancy Smith, whose mother is Marion Mackenzie, named me Lori Jean. I knew only two of these four women, but I carry their blood in my veins and their memories in my bones. May I speak our collective truth in a way that makes good change in a world that needs great change. The time has come for you and I to take our rightful sacred place in a culture that denies it. This is my story and journey to uncover the truth that supports my right to do just that, no matter the cost. I hope you decide you deserve that sacred place too. Hi, everyone, and welcome to She Life. Today, I'm joined by Genna Thomsen. Genna and I met through an online Hay House Writers Workshop. As we all know, Hay House is a publisher well known for its spiritual and personal growth books. While we don't know each other very well yet, we've stayed connected through social media and Facebook messages. And when I put out an open invitation for people who felt they had something meaningful to say to share on She Life, I was genuinely glad when Genna reached out. Genna is an intuitive wellness guide and an advanced Theta Healing practitioner. Through her work, she supports people in releasing subconscious beliefs that no longer serve them, clearing energetic blockages to reconnect with their own inner guidance. What stood out most to me, though, is how grounded her spiritual path and spiritual work is. It is not an abstract path removed from daily life. It's a lived path and shows up in how she cares for herself, her family, and her community. Genna has been married for over 28 years. She is a mother of three, two living, one not. And she is now a grandmother to a baby boy, with another grandchild expected any moment. Her life reflects devotion, joy, loss, and presence. She also believes, as I do, in the inherent goodness of people. In this conversation, we talk about intuition, healing, the divine feminine, and what it really means to live with openness to life, to change, and to the unseen currents that guide us. Hello, Genna Thomsen. Welcome to She Life.
Hi, Lori. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm so excited for this. So to begin, let's just tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, your family, and where your life is right now.
Well, as shared, my name is Genna. When people ask me where I'm from, I like to be a little sarcastic and say heaven. And then they all sit there really weird and look at me. And I'm said, oh, you wanted to know where I was born, where I live and raised. I currently reside in Utah in the United States. I, as you mentioned, am happily married. I write that on all forms at offices and things where it asks your marital status. I always write happily on the top. I find that a good status to notate as being happy matters to me, as you shared. It's something that I find that I put a lot of intention to in my life. And two children. My daughter just had her first baby boy right before New Year's on December 30th. She lives here close, so I get to participate and play with him. She did tell me I had to stay away for like 4 days to let her and her husband settle in. So I feel like a teenager waiting for phone calls and pictures right now. And I love gardening. I love things of the earth. I love Mother Nature. I love rocks and crystals and books. I'm a student of life, Lori. I love the discovery and learning and thinking and meeting people who think different than I do. So I'm just really a student of life.
Oh, that's wonderful. Anyway, so you and I met through Hay House, a workshop. And what was really wonderful is how people are kind of guarded on those online workshops. And when I remember I did a tagline for the book, Mother Stone of the Savior, and she wrote back, you wrote, I'd read that book. And I thought, how sweet, right? And so we just connected right then. So what drew you to that Hay House workshop? What were you exploring at the time, and how's your book coming?
Well, like you, I am an author well, you're a published author. I'm not there yet. Author in progress. My honestly, most of my adult life, time with friends and family, people have said to me, Genna, write a book. Genna, write a book. So I feel inside of me, maybe how you felt, that there's a book in me, maybe more than one. And so I finally thought, well, I probably ought to find some organized people who have gotten across that finish line. So I was drawn to Louise L. Hay has been my favorite person and author since I was 18. I read her book, You Can Heal Your Life, when I was basically a child, teenager at the time. And I've been she's my favorite author and has been. So I followed Hay House authors and her through my whole adult life. So I thought I'm going to do this workshop and learn some tips and tricks. And when I saw your Divine Feminine, Lori, that's a call to me. I feel like, and anybody who wants to speak out so in the world against things that maybe don't feel like the norm, or, go against the grain a little bit. I love just the authenticity of that I feel like all of us have our own divine intuition, and Divine Feminine is part of that. But we do live in a very patriarchal society in a lot of places and ways that don't feel comfortable with that. And so I just thought, yes, I'll read that. Yes, I want to embrace that. And whether it's something I at the time didn't know before I read it that I believe personally in or not, it didn't matter. I love the ideas and people just standing in their own truth. So I felt very drawn to that, and your courage and your bravery and saying, I'm going to share some information and, stand in this place to speak about something that felt so true to you. And now I've read it and I loved every page of it. I had to get a pen by like page 2, but honestly, Lori, it took me a really long time to read. And I'm a fast reader. I am a bookaholic. I have stacks of books and most of them are read and a lot of them aren't. But your book, because so many of your ideas sent me on different rabbit holes. I was like, I've never heard of this person and I want to investigate this. And now, so it took me a couple of months to read your books because I kept doing my own little side ventures, which is an amazing compliment to you as an author, that you made me think deeper and harder and more curious about things that I didn't know about. So kudos to you.
Well, it took me 15 years to figure this out. And I didn't want women to have to take 15 years. So I wanted to be able to share it. And, I say to people on the website, message me. I'll answer any question you have. Hay House is a wonderful platform. I was in their community for a year and I studied, and it helped me. It truly did. And I took their I met you on my second workshop with them. The first one was during COVID. And I wrote a 10,000 word manifesto about the patriarchy and just the things I had seen and what was inside me. And it was wild, but I had to kind of pull it all together and put together something that I felt could go into a public forum that would give me some credibility, because I think, I don't know if it's happened to you, but we get labeled crazy. We get labeled, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I wanted to ensure that I had citations to back up everything that I was saying, right? But I don't want to talk about me. I want to.
Well, you did it beautifully.
I want to talk about you. You describe yourself as an intuitive wellness guide. That's so exciting, and I have so many questions for someone unfamiliar with that language. How would you explain what that means in everyday terms?
I guess to explain it, was given gifts of intuition. My first experience with some of those gifts, I was 8 years old at my grandfather's funeral, and he walked down the aisle and I slid over on the pew for him to sit next to me. I didn't know terms then that I do now of clairvoyance, that I had the gift of sight, that some call it, that I could see spirits. I was a child, and it didn't seem weird to me to see my grandfather, even now knowing he was really literally, his physical body was dead in a casket, but he sat next to me. And then I had gifts of clairvoyance. I could hear, or clairaudience. I could hear, not only see them, but I could hear them. It's not a hearing like we hear noise and sounds as vibrations. It's more just in your mind quiet. So I came with these gifts. But Lori, I found also young, people aren't comfortable with that, and they didn't like you talking about it. And sometimes it was scary and startling. because we see with our physical eyes, but then when you're seeing things that aren't quote unquote here, you come around a corner and you see someone standing there that then all of a sudden you blink twice and they're not really standing there. Sometimes it was startling. Or when I would share about it, one time my mom got really upset and shook me, grabbed my shoulders and said, don't say these things anymore. So then for a long time, I just didn't talk about those gifts. So those are some of the intuition that I came with. And then as I got older, I was like, well, I appreciate these gifts and I want to further learn about them and explore them. And so I started doing more reading and more research. And then I just felt called to more healing things. I am drawn to herbs and crystals and things that I mentioned, of just the healing arts of plants and even crystal energy and stuff. So I started to explore and read more on that. And then through different divine, I always ask for divine guidance. And then, Lori, I'm kind of a stubborn, argumentative person at times. And I'd have divine intuition of like, go here or drive there. And one day I felt this divine impression to stop at this place. And I was like, didn't have time in my schedule, didn't feel like it was really what I wanted to do. But I was like, Genna, you asked for divine guidance and now you're going to sit and argue about divine guidance. So I stopped and it was this weird outlet mall. And I got out of the car and parked. As I'm walking through the outlet mall, I'm literally arguing. It sounds like, with angels basically in my mind going, you better make this good. I stopped. I didn't have time. Here I am. They're probably like, Genna, you're the biggest pain. I know. So I'm like, why am I here? You better show me. I got other stuff to do. And then there was like at this crystal store, which I didn't even know existed in this outlet mall, the place, there was a lady there doing like aura readings. So I'm like, in my mind still, again, you see people call you crazy. I felt like a lunatic because I'm arguing with, I don't know who or what in my own head and heart at the time. I'm like, is this it? Is this why I parked and came into this place? And I got the feeling, and it's feelings more than even, and knowing it's this divine. And you hear people say that about, I had this feeling or this gut instinct, or even sometimes you hear people say, a God wink or a whisper, and that's how my divine intuition. Anyway, long story short, it was this crystal place. It was this store. There was the aura reading lady there. And when I sat down and she read my aura, she's like, are you a healer? And I said, no, but I'd seen something on the news the night before, and I don't watch the news, but it was Theta Healing. My husband had the news on, and there was something, and I stopped and I said, what's that? I've never heard of that. Literally next day in this mall, the lady says, are you a healer? And I said, no, but it's funny you asked me that. Last night I heard this thing called Theta Healing. I don't even know what it is, but I felt drawn to it. And she goes, that's funny you say that. I know a lady who teaches Theta Healing classes. Let me give you her information. So she gives me her information. I call this woman. Again, the synchronicities, Lori, you can't make this stuff up. The lady lived 1 mile away from me, up the street from my house. I could walk to her house in, however long it takes to walk a mile. Signed up for her classes. So the intuitive wellness guide is just me, again, divine intuition led me right down that pathway, boom, 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 to find this lady and take these classes. And we'll get to, I'm sure, more questions about Theta Healing.
This is the next question. How's that for synchronicity? You're formally trained as an advanced Theta Healing practitioner. Can you explain Theta Healing and how it works? Like, that was the next question.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. So I have these gifts that are just innate to me that I came with. So those are some of my, just even arguing with spirit is one of my gifts. I ask for divine inspiration and then I argue with the timing of it sometimes, even though I still love it and appreciate it.
You have to make sure you're speaking with the right spirits.
That is true too, because there are ones that is a good point.
You're guarding yourself. So don't stop doing that. That's good. The good ones will just laugh and just keep going, right?
They do. And I have learned very much discernment over the years in those cases. And you're absolutely right. The good ones are quiet and gentle and patient beyond reason. So Theta Healing. So I found this teacher and signed up for the classes, and they were 3-day workshops. So Theta Healing is not something that's unique to me. It's something that anybody could learn. It was established by a woman named Vianna. And in Theta Healing, Theta is actually a brainwave we all go into deep asleep at night. It's the brainwave of creation and regeneration. So like if you have a cut on your hand, let's say, At night, when you're deep asleep, that REM sleep, your body's in the theta brainwave. That's when your body's making new skin cells, when it's healing. It's when your body's, when children are growing, they're in that theta brainwave, deep asleep at night. I kind of like to make the analogy of thinking of a Tibetan monk who's just in that deep, deep, deep state of meditative trance. It is a deep mental meditative state, but in theta classes, we learn how to get into that state very quickly, Lori. And in that state, we communicate with, in the class, we call it creator of all that is. So whenever I'm working with the client, I ask them what their belief is in a higher power. And it's not a religious question. It's just for sake of conversation in a session, terminology, whether they believe it's God, creator, mother, more abstract, is that there is a higher power. In the theta classes, we call it creator of all that is. And where I'm that intuitive guide is when I'm working with someone, I get myself into that theta brainwave, that deep, deep meditative state quickly. So I'm quiet. My body even kind of does this little movement jerking when I'm in that deep state. And then I'm able to communicate basically in spirit. And I go to creator of all that is. And depending who I'm working with and what they want to address that day, I am the phone line, so to speak. I say, creator, Lori wants to work on her chakras, or we're going to do some belief work, or there's a crick in her right shoulder. What's stuck here? Is it something physical? Is it emotional? And then I come back and report to you what I see or find. So that's the intuitive and the wellness and the guide about it. But it's really the work between you and your creator is how you get well, not Genna Thomsen. I don't know how to heal Lori or anyone I work with, but I know who to ask. And I know how to listen.
You're tuning into the person who you're working with.
Absolutely. I call it my Tinkerbell ball of light. When I'm in the theta brainwave, I'm like a little ball of light, and I can go up and speak to creator and then come back in the top of people's head through their crown chakra. And then I can see in their body. I can feel things that they feel. I can ask to look at any organ, bone, tissue, but a lot of it's emotional. And sometimes in sessions, Lori, it's probably like our conversation today. We have the plan, we have what's maybe meant, and then there just is what happens. I've gone to come in people's space and they say, Genna, I'm here for a chakra clearing. And I come in their space and there's angels or past people who want to give a message or share. Or one lady, there was all this fur around her. And my promise is always to address what I'm shown. So I had to come back out of theta because I can't talk when I'm in that state and say to her, I meant to come in and look at your chakras and energy centers, but there's all this fur around you. The lady burst out in tears and said she'd had some pets that she had to give away, and that was causing her so much grief and angst. I didn't know that, but Divine did, and they knew that was in her space and weighing on her. So sometimes it's just Divine will be.
And that had to be taken care of first.
Yes, right? They wanted that out of her way. Yes.
So that brings us into part 2 where I said, on your website, you offer chakra clearing, belief work, and intuitive guidance. And so I want to, because people are always interested. There's going to be people watching today who maybe are very shy about this. Maybe they feel that the people around them wouldn't support it. Maybe they feel, a little silly, a little frightened. So let's say right now, what does a typical session look like? So Lori comes to you and we want to start talking about belief work, right? So, it says on your website, releasing beliefs that no longer serve me, and how do those beliefs show up in somebody's lives? Like how would we do that? So I'm coming to you and we're going to do some belief work.
I think that's a great question. And to first address that it feels weird and scary, I think that's true. And I think some people think they might be coming to someone who has maybe a stereotypical cartoon wearing a turban with a beaded door, and I have a glass crystal ball, and you can see me. This is how I look and dress. And, I don't have any crystal balls. I do have sometimes crystals out and a Himalayan pink salt lamp in my room, but it's very much, I'm a normal person, obviously, a wife and mother, and I do sessions via Zoom for anyone around the world, or if they live close to me here in Utah, they come to my house, and it's
even if you did have a crystal ball, that's what I'm talking about, is how people have been you know,
Stereotyped, yeah.
stereotyped, right? And so go ahead. Keep
Yes,
going.
and that's the thing is you can lean into it. Is I'm like I could find some hemp sandals and a bamboo skirt to put on when I go to breathwork classes. That's what my husband always says. Is I'm like, honey, do you want to come this time? He's like, I'm not laying on the floor with people in bamboo underwear. And I'm like, I've never asked. I'm going to ask the next class what kind of underwear everyone's wearing. So everyone has this idea of this, kind of super hippie. I'm not a mystic. I'm not a psychic, Lori. These are classes I took to learn a skill. And so, yes, people can have apprehension. You're totally right. And sometimes people are like, oh, is she going to know this about me? And they might even leave a session like, she didn't say anything about my hurt shoulder. If you didn't ask me to look at your hurt shoulder, I for sure am not going to say anything about it. These sessions are what you ask. So for belief work, it's a great question. And it comes to kinesiology. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do. But our viewers may not.
So kinesiology, again, not something Genna Thomsen came up with. It's been around for, I don't even know, how thousands of years as far as I know, maybe longer than thousands, tens of thousands. There's a knowledge inside of you that's beyond your brain. So I use kinesiology, or sometimes it's referred to as muscle testing. Chiropractors use it, nutritionists use it, lots of different modalities out there use it. So when it comes to belief work, I like to use the analogy of a computer. When you turn your computer on, you have your screensaver and all your icons of different programs you use. So that's what you see when you open your laptop or turn your computer on. But really, for those things to exist, behind that is a whole bunch of programming. That's our beliefs, Lori. And what we learn in Theta classes is we really carry in our DNA at least up to 6, maybe 7 generations of our ancestors of beliefs. So if things in your life, like on the computer screen, are not going the way you want, like no matter what I do, I keep having money troubles, or no matter what I do, my relationships just seem to have a lot of conflict. Or, you know what, I try to be a confident person, but I just always have this kind of lingering self-doubt. If the screen isn't showing up, that when people start to talk to me about what's going in their life, I listen for, I think there's some beliefs back here that might be their ancestors' belief that are the code that's making things in their life show up one way, but really it's not kind of their effort, but it's life kind of is looking at the blueprint of you going, oh God, we'd really want Lori to have great finances, amazing relationships, and feel confident. But she has 4 generations of women and her ancestors that, had money issues, no self-confidence. And oh my gosh, 5 generations back, one of them was a Catholic priest and made a vow of poverty. Mm-hmm. So we can't give her any of these things. So that's why up front here, it looks this way. So I use muscle testing. And for me, some people use like a finger method and have you hold your fingers tight and you say yes and pull and it's strong, and you say no and there's a weakness. Some people use arms. I have people stand up facing north. Again, didn't make this up, but it works. And then for me, it gets people's brains out of it. You stand up with your hands to your side, feet shoulder width apart, facing north, and you say yes. And you just stand there and you'll feel yourself rock forward a little bit. If you're well hydrated, you have to drink water. And then you wait a second and you say no. You'll rock backwards. Everyone who's listening to this, you'll stand up and do it after I've said this. If you don't move, go get a big drink of water, come back and do it. And then you say, am I testing correctly? And then you should go forward again. And then, Lori, then I have you say, I am enough. And your body's going to answer yes or no. I am worthy, yes or no. I have a vow of poverty, yes or no. You might be like, I didn't ever make one. But if one of your ancestors did, and you're carrying that in your DNA, so depending on all those answers, I'm sitting here as the wellness guide making notes. Then after we do as much as we think we need to on whatever topic, you sit back down and Jenna's like, okay, are you ready to release all those? And they say yes. And I close my eyes and I go in Theta, back to creator of all it is. And I say, this belief in Lori, that's yes. Please resolve on history. Lori, we can't change history. What is. The past is the past. So we just say resolve it there. But then we pull and cancel it from everywhere else. From this moment forward, from every belief in you and every cell in your body, we pull and cancel it. But then the beautiful part is we replace it with the opposite. I am worthy. No, we're pulling and canceling that. I am worthy. Yes, I am worthy of every good thing. I'm worthy of love and abundance and peace and prosperity. And so we replace that. And watching it in Theta, when you're replacing things, to me, it looks like this gorgeous, creamy white light. I tell people, if you've ever watched an old-fashioned taffy pull, where that taffy is being pulled and it's soft and pliant, it looks like that. It looks like this creamy, warm taffy light filling them through the top of their head, through their whole body, of now being filled from the inside out of a belief that maybe they've never experienced.
Personally, when I'm listening to you talk about it, you nab the one. When I start my podcast for She Life, I name the generations of women that come before me. I was taught that from a friend out in British Columbia. And it was poverty. It was abuse. It was lots of poverty. So for me, one of the things I've had to do was stop that messaging from coming to me, that I was worth abundance. I could create abundance. Abundance was okay, even in the form of money. And still messaging coming from family members that when I did become successful, when it looked like I had some wealth, I mean, I don't have a ton, but I'm comfortable, and I like to share it. I would get messages still from my mother saying, who do you think you are? And,
It made her uncomfortable.
yeah, and not want to see my progress, not want to come in to see, come to visit, to see my success, to experience the success, share, to share in the wealth. I'm willing to share with my family. And I thought, holy, I know why I had such a hard time trying to change this messaging, because it was built into me. And that was
hardwired.
Hardwired is exactly what it is. And, I still struggle with it. I still struggle with it, because a community, you have people who will look at you. I had friends saying, oh, she wasn't satisfied with just doing A. She needed to do B, C, and D. And I'm thinking, wow, what is the matter? I'm just on a journey. I'm exploring. I'm embracing this with joy. And so I had
So you're damn right. I'm going all the way to XYZ. And why wouldn't we? There's no ceiling. Let's go tall and wide. And it's so funny.
As a woman, it was seen as being greedy and all that kind of stuff. And so,
beliefs, Lori, those are beliefs.
Yeah. So I try to just keep doing what I'm doing, one foot in front of the other, and trust myself, trust the process, and trust that higher power. And yeah, it's great that you came up with that right away, the money thing, right? It's like a sin in my family. They all want it. They all complain about being in poverty. They don't do what they need to do to break free from it.
Because they probably all have these beliefs back here that are kind of that cog in the wheel that, again, their computer screen, and even in their, like you're saying, out here they want to, but you've done it against all odds, like the fish swimming upstream. You've done it against force with great effort. But when you pull beliefs, Lori, the effort gets released. And I've had ancestors in spirit fight with me, exactly like you're saying, the resistance going, no, this is the way it should be. We should, just enough for our needs, and we shouldn't want more. And I've had to say to them in spirit, thank you. That was your lived experience. But this person who's sitting in front of me right now, who came to me, they want a different lived experience. So you can keep yours. Or I look at them and go, or for once in your eternal progression, or wherever you are in spirit, you could try this on and see if it fits and how it feels to have more than enough, to embrace. Because there's also the safety thing I heard in what you said, is sometimes there's fear in the having enough or more than enough or wealth. There's this power thing, that there's a fear in there, because there's a perception of wealthy people are powerful, and power is scary because powerful people do mean things, kind of. So you have to listen between the lines. Do we need to address safety?
Yeah.
That it's safe to be wealthy as a woman.
Yeah, for me, I try to share with people that my searching for abundance or wealth was not for me, because it was to ensure that my children did not have to go through what I did. have to beg for a quarter to get on
Yeah.
the bus, right? Or, there wasn't enough food in the fridge. That if you wanted to get a higher education, the family was there as a safety net to help you. So what I was trying to do was, once I started on that journey to wellness, was to provide that safety net for the next generation so that the narrative did change. One of my biggest choices when my daughter was going to university, and she was struggling. She was a single mom. She was pregnant with her second baby. Relationships either work or they don't. And I was able to put cold hard cash in an envelope and hand it to her. And we have a
That felt good.
yeah, we have a joke because I have a grandson who's now in his 20s, but when he was little, he had a really, there must have been something, in our past life. He didn't speak too much to me, and he would never kiss me. My youngest grandson, or youngest, when oh, I guess she had the baby. She already had the baby, but she had these two young children, and the little one would kiss me, and the older one wouldn't. And when she got the envelope and she opened it, she said, "Kiss your grandma."
And did he?
No, but we have a really wonderful relationship now. I just have to be patient and wait for our karma to come to us
Clear.
point. But I, I, I understand that when you take vows of poverty, if you decide to put on robes like the Buddhists, yeah, that's great. But if I'm choosing to live as you are, married, I'm living in this world and I'm dealing with what we have to on a daily basis, it's okay to have abundance. It's okay to work towards that. And I want women to hear that, because that took me a long time to accept.
It's okay to want it for yourself only, Lori. If that is, just say that I want this for me, for the freedom of peace of mind. And Louise L. Haywood, she has a saying about money that I love, that say, I have money to spend, to spare, to save, and to share. Oh, and that's it, just for yourself. Yes. And
no wonder we were drawn to Hay House.
Yes. But you can have the vows of poverty. We can declare them complete in belief work, that they're not the tethers that tie you vibrationally to what your ancestors chose. So that's the power in Theta Healing that I don't know in any other modality, that you can do that you can untie, like you talked about in your book and that picture of Mary, of untying those ties from your ancestors, that you can untie them so they're not bound to you anymore, that you have full freedom of choice in not only what you're moving forward, but in vibrational, so that the vibration and energy of those things aren't interfering, that your choices truly are clear and free for you.
Untie the knots that bind you.
Yes. Yeah. That's belief work.
So you also do intuitive card readings. I know a lot of people are really interested in tarot cards and card readings. So how do you use those as a tool for guidance? Do you use them as prediction or just more guidance?
I would say 99.9% guidance. Prediction, I don't love prediction ever. I've had like maybe one or two people over the years that ever ask that, and I say we can if you really want to, but the future is so fluid. Mm-hmm. It's so, moving upon different things, and there's different spreads that you can do to have just a impression upon what might come. But again, the future, you've got to rely on your intuition, on facts, on knowledge, on clear decision making. So it's guidance. Have you ever used an oracle deck of cards yourself, Lori?
Well, I have them all, and I've taken courses. I have a favorite. Her name is Mariana Lewis, and she's in New York. Do you know her? Do you take one of her courses, and she uses the archetypes. Yeah. And it's taking tarot card reading to, I think, the best level. And she's just a wonderful person. And the last course I took with her, my book was on her recommended reading. And I thanked her. She goes, Lori, she said, you earned it. Don't thank me. You earned to be on that list. So she's just a wonderful young woman. So no, I don't turn the tarot, though to go and pull a card once in a while. I don't tell that to Mariana, but she's taught me other things. But that's not who I am. I'm not a tarot card reader, but I'm very interested in it. And I found the Pope-S card in an old tarot card deck from from the medieval time. Anyway, so, but I did have a friend, I wanted to tell you this story, that yes, time is fluid and things could change on a dime. And she was, one time I was watching, she was turning these cards. She'd asked this really important question for herself. She was turning these cards every 3-4 minutes. She goes, that's how quick things can change. Right. So anyway, I
It's
just wanted
wild.
to let you know about that. So how if someone got a hold of you through your website, what would that look like for somebody who came to you?
So I don't do traditional tarot. I
Okay.
did the classes
Oracle
and I
cards?
tried. It does not speak to me. I could not get my heads around all those major arcana and minor. That just never stuck with me. And I'm really smart and intelligent. That just was not. So I
Well,
use
there's more
oracle
to the
cards.
story of those cards than
I
just
know
the
there's lots of
illusion.
layers. You could do a whole book on that.
Yes. We'll leave that to Mariana.
Yes, there is.
She
So
does
I
have a new
use
book. Yeah.
oracle cards. And really, honestly, when people schedule an appointment with me, I tell them their appointment starts when they schedule because I start getting divine impressions, I start getting feelings. And so usually if someone comes in, especially if they're saying they're coming just for a reading, I don't know how many decks of oracle cards I have, Lori. I mean, maybe more than 50.
Wow.
I'll get feelings of which deck might speak most to them, and I'll have 2 or 3 out. And then when they come, I'll say, is there a specific concern or issue you have that you want the cards to speak to, or do you just want an open-ended thing? And they'll either say no, something specific, and I'll say, do you want to share before, or do you want to keep it to yourself? Because the cards are going to answer either way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get out a deck. Some of my favorite ones lately are Rebecca Campbell. If you're familiar with her, she has some beautiful. This new one is a stone, Heart of the Stone deck that's just brilliant. And so then I let them just sit and shuffle the cards while we talk and get their energy on the cards. And then we just let them say, okay, are you ready? And we put them down. And then a lot of the cards have, just a little sentence on them, but then there's a book that goes more into depth. And then depending on the spread of what we're doing to answer, it's usually anywhere from 3 to 5 cards. And then we start talking through and I'll say, do you want to just go through the cards before you share? Because either someone has a specific question or they're just asking open-ended, for divine guidance for me right now. And then we talk about that. And it's this fun discovery of this conversation of, here's what I feel when I read this card and I'm sitting here next to you. Or if it's a specific thing they have, here's what I think spot on divine is answering to you. And they'll be like, oh my gosh. Or sometimes people burst out in tears and, whatever is going to be that's most poignant for them. So that's how a card reading can go. And sometimes it's cool. I've got decks that are fairies and dragons, and someone will be like, I don't believe in fairies and dragons. And I'm like, you don't have to. It's still just the energy of the messages. You don't have to believe they're going to come around the corner in 5 minutes, but it's just the energy of this realm and the magic of these and the messages that can come through divine that way. It's just another tool for divine to communicate in a way that we can understand.
Well, I think we've given our viewers, you do more than this, and we've given our viewers kind of couple of really cool examples of how you can help them. But let's get on to our part 3, and we're going to talk about the divine feminine. So the divine feminine is showing up all over the place. As you know, I'm on TikTok, and I'm just hearing a lot of people that I follow on TikTok talk about things changing. I talk about my book about the Divine Mother returning in 2015 and, returning to Earth, going into the water, and then manifesting of 8, coming out of the water with 8 manifestations of herself to go and stand on 8 mountains of the world. And for me in 2015, things really started shifting, like with the Me Too movement. So, my book was what my book, Stone of the Savior, was trying to do was just my contribution to and my contribution, I hope, with what I shared in Stone of the Savior was I want a balanced spirituality, a divine feminine sitting beside the divine masculine. But in order to do that, she needs to be recognized that she's there and that she sits equally. And then the divine feminine masculine, can come together. So when you hear the phrase divine feminine, what does that mean to you personally?
Personally, I would say that it means to me, I think of Divine Mother, I think of Heavenly Mother, I think of just nurturing, loving. I think of Mother Nature. I think of this planet, of how much it gives back to it. I think every time I plant something, Lori, when I put a seed in the ground, I bless it, and I bless it to meet the measure of its creation and how much it gives back. I think the divine feminine encompasses so much of giving, of loving, strength and softness. I think all those things when I hear that term.
And to me, when I hear you say that, that really fits into what I said at the beginning, that, you live your spiritual life. It shows up in how you care for yourself, your family, and your community, and, through Mother Earth. So within your family, how do they view how you think, how you feel, the message that you're putting out into the world? Does it resonate? Maybe some people would be interested in hearing how it resonates with your husband. I have a husband who does not believe. I remember when he met, he said he didn't believe in God, but if he was ever to believe, because I practice native spirituality, that's my core, that's my base, that's where my heart is. That's the community that came and healed me from alcoholism, and they did. I mean, I did go to AA and Women for Sobriety, but that base healing came from a medicine man in a circle when he looked deeply in my eyes.
I love that.
Oh, and it's the truth. And I couldn't say that in an AA meeting for 15 years.
Yeah.
Because of that fear. But my husband said to me, if I was ever going to believe in anything, it would be that spirituality of the Mother Earth. And that is the way of the indigenous, is of, the caring of the earth. It's not a religion. It's a way of life for them. And so you're living that way of life, of connection to the earth. So, and my husband is supportive in the way that I am not constrained. I am not constrained. I am free, but also he is not. He is free to believe how he believes, as long as he's respectful to how I believe. And we've been together now for close to 25 years, right? He's my third, serious partner. So it's obvious you get that support.
100%. I mean, my husband, I would say, in his actual beliefs, we were both raised in the same Christian church and upbringing. And he, early on in our marriage, was like, I don't believe in the actual rhetoric of that anymore. And that was hard for him to feel, because I was still very active in that community at the time. And he thought that that would be a negative in our relationship. And I was like, honey, I love you. I have room in my mind and heart for us to feel different. And I'm sorry if this was a strain for you and you've been holding back to not share that. I've known you didn't care about this for a long time. I'm like, if this is your coming out to tell me you don't want to, play in this world, I've known that for years. And so no, Lori, we have complete respect and space for each other to feel different. And he won't come to a breathwork class. He probably thinks some of these things I do are on the wild Wiccan hippie version, but on the full moon, he'll help me carry my crystals outside to put them on the table in the full moonlight. And when I make moon water outside, he'll be like, is this the full moon water? Can I drink some sometimes? I have herbs in the, counter or in the cupboard to make homemade tinctures of things I've grown in love in my garden. And so there's just absolute room for the rules in our house are always kindness, respect, agreement's optional. So we just show kindness and respect for each other. We don't have to agree. And so, he might like things that I do, he might not, but he always will support me and respect me. And if I want to do something, he lets me. And I mean, it's not that I need his permission anyway, because sometimes he'll be like, I don't care if you do that. And always in my mind, I'm like, well, I wasn't asking.
But that's the balance that I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So I remember a gathering. I talk in the book about these 9 gatherings I have over 9 4-day gatherings over 9 years. And I remember on one, they asked where my husband was. Why wasn't my husband participating? Where was he? I said, well, he's in the house reading a book.
Yeah, right.
But he's the one who helped cut the grass. He's the
Right.
one who gave me money from his paycheck because we didn't charge any money, so everything was free. Who I went and bought groceries, so it was that support in what I was doing. He may not have understood it. It's not that he didn't disagree. He didn't disagree with it. He just let me be me
Yep.
and
That's what my
welcome all
husband.
the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
who I wanted to be surrounded by. And he still does. So
He just loves me, and I love
he
that.
just
Yeah.
loves me. That's it. I remember one time I said to my husband, started talking about something. I says, do you remember who you married? I mean, and then it stopped him and he goes, oh yeah, right. They can forget periodically, but it's a quick reminder, and you just you stay true to yourself and in your center, but all, with joy and love for them back, right? That
Yeah.
you have
Oh,
that
I adore him.
foundational love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're a mother of three, including one child who is no longer living. And I knew I was going to crack up. How has loss shaped your understanding of love and presence?
Well, we should do a trigger warning in this moment of, if you're someone who cries when other people cry, we're probably going to cry. So go get a tissue, hit pause, because this will probably bring tears, because it's vulnerable and it's emotional to share this. And yeah, so Joey's my youngest. He was 15 when he died. He died by suicide, Lori. It was a Sunday like any other day, hanging out, playing, goofing around. He mowed the lawn. He was 6'2", 152 pounds, had good friends, cutest dimpled smile you've ever seen. And he walked out the door and didn't come back. And I didn't understand it then. It will be 9 years this September, and I don't understand it today. And so how loss has shaped my life is, I mean, first, it's just like a horse kick to, your gut and your heart, because it was so unexpected. Not only his death, but death by suicide. Suicide was something you heard about on the news or that other people dealt with. We didn't ever obviously think we would deal with suicide, let alone have our youngest child. I'm the most open-minded, direct person I know. I mean, anybody in my family, especially my children, could come to me with any number of issues or problems, and there isn't anything I feel like we couldn't face. And the fact that, he died in this way was so flabbergasting and so upsetting. My husband's in law enforcement, and he's gone a lot nights and weekends at the time. And Joey and I spent the most time together. And for me as a mom first, and I would say this is probably, and I know I'm speaking in generalities, but true for a lot of people who lose anybody to suicide, is you put yourself on trial first. I had to, and I'm judge and jury, and I had to put myself on trial real fast and go, did I do anything or not do anything? Or what did I miss that this kid of mine, as an intuitive wellness guide and his mother, what did I miss? And so in a moment, you have to be on trial and then just live with that loss. And Lori, he was my baby. I wasn't done being his mother. I wasn't done raising him. He was just 10 days into his sophomore year in high school. I still drove him around. He had his learner's permit. He couldn't even drive yet. And so I, in a way, even though my other two were adults and had graduated high school, I stopped being a mom in the way a child needs their mom to give them lunch money and drive them to their friends overnight. And so that loss just, stopped me in my tracks. And I'm also somebody who has a lot of food allergies and doesn't drink alcohol and all the things that you can use a little bit to hide and fade and numb. So that's why I even shared in my intro that poem I love, that's The Invitation by Oriah the Mountain Dreamer. A line in that poem says, can you sit with pain, mine or your own, and not try to hide it, fade it, or fix it? So that's what I did in Joey's loss, is I sat with that pain, and I didn't hide it. I didn't try to fade it. I couldn't fix it. And so I just felt it. I cried more tears than I thought a human body could make. And then a friend of mine, it wasn't a week after he died, I don't know how we ended up on the radio. Somebody called and asked us, and we didn't have enough presence of mind to say no to come on the radio and talk about suicide, because my kid being the smart aleck that he was, died on World Suicide Awareness Day. He took his life on September 10th. So if that doesn't initiate you to a stage and a conversation, my kid nominated me to that. And so we were on the radio sharing his story, and somebody called in and said, you sharing today, I was actually considering suicide and I'm not. I'm going to go get help. And my friend said, Genna, if you guys talking and sharing help save one person, then your pain isn't wasted. And it's like it shocked me enough, Lori. I felt like it got my attention when I was like, okay, like we're here. What are we going to do? He's gone. Nothing we can do is going to undo that. So how are we going to handle this pain? And how can we make a difference for good? That is a prayer of my heart, is how can I be used for good? And now I have a new place and a way. So a month after he died, we started something called J Day. Joey's birthday is October 12th. So every month on the 12th of the month, we call it J Day. And we encourage everyone we know, I share it on social media, to do something kind. Our theme is kindness matters more, because there's always more, somewhere more in your life that you can give more, forgive more, be more engaged, more involved, and then be real. Because if we're really being real, Lori, Joey didn't share. He never came to me and said, Mom, I'm struggling. Mom, I'm having dark thoughts. Mom, I'm depressed. Mom, I'm anything. He didn't let me help him. And that's one of the hardest pills I've had to swallow as his mother, is I didn't get to fight for him. And I thought that was the heaviest and hardest. So J-Day helps us to share that message of kindness and good. And then a year after he died too, I went to a bereaved mothers retreat with a local a foundation here that promotes suicide prevention and mental health. And now I write a monthly newsletter for them. I also sit on a board of another foundation who also supports the same things. And I'm just engaged in a conversation for good, Lori, for people to fight for their tomorrows. My Joey, I didn't get to fight for his tomorrow, but I can support and educate and fight for other people's tomorrows. So that's how his loss has shaped me. But 2 years, well, I guess it was about 2 years before he died, my grandmother lived with me for 2 years until she passed. And then Joey's passing. And then a year after Joey passed, we were caring for my bonus stepdad, and he passed. So I had just these back-to-back losses. So that's actually what had me in the Hay House thing, is I'm writing a memoir teaching thing about death and some of the things that come up and what you need to do and some helpful tips and tricks. So that's actually the book that's in me, is navigating all these moments of death for different people and the things I've learned that I want to share with others to help in that time.
And that's why we're talking about it today. And because I sent you a kit, about a media kit about what we'll be talking about, and you wanted this conversation to be part of it, or I felt you did.
Yes.
By no means am I an expert, but I just felt that whoever you had been talking to is absolutely right. This by you sharing, you can help somebody. And if it helps somebody today, thank you. Like I said, I'm no expert. I have no words. I can't help anybody. I can just offer this platform and offer you a place to share. So you live by the idea of open hands and an open heart. What does it actually look like in practice, especially during difficult seasons?
Well, it looks like me being very honest, probably to the point to some people in my life of uncomfortable conversations. That's the, open hands, open heart. Lori, I'm an open-minded, honest, sometimes bossy person in my life, but I also am very generous and kind and giving. I have gatherings with a group of girlfriends every 3 weeks on a Saturday at my house. We gather, we meditate, I do dinner, and I, being my husband, who cooks dinner for us every time that we gather and makes amazing things, that he goes, Genna, I think I just cook for you and your friends, and they always ask for my recipes. I go, yeah, of course they do. You always make amazing things. If you sucked at it, then they wouldn't ask for your stuff. So I live in that realm because I want people to feel comfortable with me. I want them to know I'm a safe place, Lori. I don't care where people find their inspiration, their pleasure. I don't, I have space and room for everybody's different ideas and feelings. And I just want them to know that they're loved with me and they're safe with me.
Well, you
And
made me
so,
feel that way. You made me feel
yeah,
that way at Hay House, and look where we are 2 years later. And it's
yeah.
and what's been so surprising about this interview that you're answering the questions before I've even asked them.
Divine intuition, Lori.
It's unbelievable. So, my next question was about, sitting with your pain from that poem that you just read, but we've already talked about that. So let's get into, something really exciting. And you become a grandmother. And so how do you see bringing your teachings and that open hand, open heart mentality to your grandchildren? Um, so how do you see life moving forward with this next generation coming into
Oh,
your life?
I spent a long journey of yearning inside of me, and I had great grandmothers. So I had wonderful relationships with my grandmothers as a child, and even deep, more meaningful ones as an adult. And so my grandmothers were so important in my life up until, as I just shared, one of them lived with me until she passed. And I cherished those memories, that time, the caregiving, the challenges, the struggle, all of it. And so I've yearned for this moment and also to watch, my child, my daughter to create life. And it's this moment of it really is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone to watch her. And I got to be in the delivery room to see her as that strength again of divine feminine to, battle through what it takes to actually bring a baby into this world. So I see this as I've already declared myself the book and blanket grandma. I've bought a ridiculous amount of blankets because I have not mastered the life skill of making them, except like a fleece one that I've tied together and cut the ends on. I do not have the talent of crocheting or knitting. I might master those at some points. And I've bought books. Lori, like I said, I'm a bookaholic, so I can't wait to sit and read with them. My cute little baby, his name is Blue, spelled Bleu, like the blue cheese blue. And he'll hold my hand. Yes, it is.
French, yeah.
Yes. And he holds my hand. And when I talk to him, he'll look up at me. And I just am so excited to teach them. I like to play it backwards a lot of times. I think in life, it's good to go to what ending you want and then reverse back to where you are now. And the ending is someday when my grandkids talk about me as a grandma, I want them to say I was funny and fierce and that I just knew things, Lori, and that I was just there for them. That's the future I'm living into, why they're 1.5 weeks old and not born yet.
Amazing. I look forward to getting the text message that the little ones arrived. So before we close, is there anything you'd like to share with our viewers? Something that you'd like to add to our conversation?
Yes, trust yourself.
Yeah.
Listen to those little whispers. Take a deep breath in the morning and ask, what good is there for you? I tell my girlfriends and people in my life all the time, the universe is saying yes to you. Let it say yes to good things. Be kind and pick yourself first. Be kind to yourself. Say kind things when you look in the mirror. And choose good, be good, and make charitable assumptions instead of thinking, the harsh things first. So just take deep breaths, lean into kindness. And there is so much strength and softness, Lori. And that's something I think the divine feminine can teach all of us a little bit more if we're willing to lean in and listen and practice in that space.
I love that. Charitable assumptions. I'm working on
Yes.
that now. That when I start, my mind goes to something negative, having what I think is happening. I'm trying to stop myself and say, no, they're coming from a good place. They mean no harm. Work from that platform on how you're going to move forward on the next step. That's something I'm working with now lots. I want to think of people, as even though I say I believe they're mainly good, that I practice that their people are mainly good. And one thing I just wanted to add is, grandmothers and grandfathers in the indigenous tradition, They call out to the grandmothers and grandfathers. They call out to their ancestors, and they have such respect, not only spiritually for their relatives who have passed, but for their grandmothers and grandfathers and great grandmothers and grandfathers that are alive. Their respect for their older generation is heartwarming. And I wish I could see that within my community, because seniors in my culture are just not treated well. And if only there could be that respect. And I had hoped, I was taught in my generation that my elders were to be respected. And I'm not feeling that sense now. So that fight in me of where I'm moving forward to is ensure that we grandmothers are able to share our wisdom and to share our truth to the generations that are following, and that they will listen with an open heart. We mean no harm. We want to teach you what has taken, decades to learn. So with that, I don't want to take the last word. But it looks like I did. But I want to say to you, you're such a brave woman. And when you said to me the other day, when I had to let a couple of friendships go, don't worry, Lori, I'm your friend now. I'm your new friend. And I'm so grateful that you are. You're such a brave woman. And thank you for coming on She Life. And thank you all to all our viewers for listening to this, what I believe is one of the best interviews I've ever done with a most gracious person. Cheers.